हेलो। हेलो एवरीवन, आई एम प्रखर सिंह और आज हम पढ़ने वाले हैं लाइफ प्रोसेस, जो कि क्लास 10th का बहुत ज़्यादा ही इम्पॉर्टेंट चैप्टर है। और आज हम उसको स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं, रेस्पिरेशन वाला पार्ट स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं। सो विदाउट वेस्टिंग फर्दर टाइम, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। हम क्या करेंगे कि चैप्टर की बेसिकली हम रीडिंग लगा रहे होंगे। ठीक है, तो हम बेसिकली रीडिंग लगा रहे हैं चैप्टर फर्स्ट की लाइफ प्रोसेसेस है जो हमारे बायोलॉजी का। रेस्पिरेशन जो है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, कुछ लोगों को बहुत डिफ़िकल्ट ये लगता है। तो आज हम एक बार रीडिंग लगाने वाले हैं ऐश चांद की, जो कि लखमीर सिंह और मंजीत कौर की है हमारे पास, और हम इसे पढ़ने वाले हैं अच्छे से। यहाँ पर एनसीईआरटी के बहुत सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं और कुछ क्वेश्चंस भी पूछे जाएंगे। सो आपको मेरे साथ बने रहना है टिल द एंड ऑफ दिस टॉपिक। सो 5 मिनट मुझे दीजिए, मैं 5 मिनट में आपको स्टार्ट करता हूँ ये चैप्टर को। प्लीज़ जितने भी लोग यहाँ पर पढ़ने के लिए बैठे हैं वहाँ पर सब लोग लाइक और कमेंट करते रहें, क्योंकि फिर ये लाइव लेक्चर बंद भी कमेंट नहीं करेगा। लेट अस स्टार्ट विद दिस चैप्टर नाउ। तो ये जो टॉपिक है रेस्पिरेशन, इसमें दो पार्ट्स आ जाते हैं, रेस्पिरेशन इन प्लांट्स और रेस्पिरेशन इन एनिमल्स। और हम रेस्पिरेशन इन प्लांट्स से स्टार्ट करते हैं, फिर हम रेस्पिरेशन, काफ़ी छोटा टॉपिक है। वेयर एज अगर रेस्पिरेशन इन एनिमल्स को, रेस्पिरेशन एनिमल्स जो है उसमें हमें अमीबा के बारे में पढ़ना है, ह्यूमन रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम पढ़ना है, फिश के बारे में पढ़ना है, अर्थवॉर्म के बारे में पढ़ना है, एम्फीबियंस, रेप्टाइल्स, ये सब जो हैं ये किस तरह से अपना खाना बनाते हैं, ये भी हमें कैसे ये रेस्पायर करते हैं, ये भी पढ़ना है। सो लेट अस स्टार्ट विथ रेस्पिरेशन इन प्लांट्स नाउ। तो हम जस्ट रीडिंग लगा रहे हैं इसकी चैप्टर की। लेट्स स्टार्ट। Like animals, plant also need energy. The plant get this energy by the process of respiration. Plant also use oxygen of air for respiration and release. Thus, the respiration in plants also involves the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So, oxygen and carbon dioxide are called respiratory gases. The respiration in plants differs from that in animals respects. तो हमने देखा कि प्लांट्स जो हैं, एनिमल्स जो, सभी को एनर्जी की ज़रूरत होती है, तो प्लांट्स भी रेस्पिरेशन परफॉर्म करते हैं और एनिमल्स भी रेस्पिरेशन फॉर्म करते हैं, परफॉर्म करते हैं। सब ये भी होता है यहाँ पर, और रेस्पिरेशन इन एनिमल्स भी होता है, क्योंकि प्लांट्स और एनिमल्स सभी को एनर्जी की ज़रूरत होती है। ठीक है, क्या तो फिर यहाँ पर दिया हुआ है कि ऑक्सीजन और कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड जो है उनको हम रेस्पिरेटरी गैसेस कहते हैं। और them. All the plants, parts, roots, stems, and leaves perform respiration individually. On the other hand, an animal performs respiration as a single unit. तो प्लांट में हम देखते हैं कि प्लांट में बहुत रेस्पायरेशन जो होते हैं बहुत अलग अलग लोग करते हैं, मतलब अलग अलग पार्ट से होते हैं. अगर हम अलग से रेस्पायरेशन करते हैं, वेयर एज जो हमारे पास लीव्स हैं वो स्टोमाटा से रेस्पायर करते हैं, जो हमारे स्टेम्स हैं वो लेंटिसेल्स से रेस्पायर करते हैं, और जो हमारे रूट्स हैं वो रूट हेयर से रेस्पायर करते हैं. तो सारे पार्ट जो हैं अलग से जगह से एक्सचेंज कर रहे हैं गैसेस का, अलग अलग ग्रहों से रेस्पायर कर रहे हैं. वेयर एज प्लांट्स जो होते हैं वो ओनली एक ही जगह से रेस्पायर करते हैं, सॉरी एनिमल्स जो होते हैं वैसे रेस्पायर करते हैं थ्रू देयर रेस्प. ठीक है, हमारे पास एक रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम होता है और हम वहीं से रेस्पिरेशन परफॉर्म करते हैं. एंड इफ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट रेस्पिरेशन, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ब्रीथिंग नाउ. Respiration and breathing are actually two different terms. Respiration and breathing are two different terms. Respiration means to break down the food in the presence of oxygen, whereas the breathing is actually a chemical process in which we inhale and exhale air. So these two are very different terms. We have another term, cellular respiration, which basically means the breakdown of food through the oxygen. Okay. So we are gonna learn about respiration in plants, how and also breathing in plants. So it is talking about breathing of the plant that is taken by different organs that are there. मतलब हमारे पास टमाटा भी होते हैं, लेंटिसेल्स भी होते हैं, और रूट हेयर भी होते हैं. ये सब रूट हेयर्स भी होते हैं. ये सभी रेस्पिरेशन अलग पार्ट के लिए अलग रेस्पिरेटरी ऑर्गन्स होते हैं. वेयर एज इन एनिमल एक ही रेस्पिरेटरी ऑर्गन होता है, जो कि हमारा रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम एक ही रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम होता है. वेयर एज प्लांट्स में अलग अलग ऑर्गन्स के लिए अलग अलग रेस्पिरेशन के लिए रेस्पिरेशन. हाँ, तो चलते हैं आगे. ऑल द प्लांट्स ऑफ अ प्लांट, all the parts of the plant like roots, stems and leaves perform respiration individually. On the other hand, an animal performs respiration as a single unit. During respiration in the plants, there is a little transport of respiratory gases from one part of the plant to the other. On the other hand, respiratory gases are usually transported over long distances inside an animal during respiration. The respiration in plants occurs at a slow rate. On the other hand, the respiration in animals occurs at much higher rate. Plants get oxygen by diffusion, have a branching shape, so they have a quite a large surface area in comparison to their volume. Therefore, diffusion or supply all the cells of the plants with a much oxygen as they need for respiration. Diffusion occurs in the roots, stems, and leaves through stomata, lenticels, and root hair respectively. Respiration in roots. Air is present in between the particles. The roots of the plant take the oxygen required for respiration from the air spaces or air present in between the soil particles by the process of diffusion. The extension of the cells of the root are called root hairs. The root hairs are in contact with the air in the soil. Oxygen from the air is in the soil particles diffuses into root hair and reaches to the other cells of the root for respiration. Carbon dioxide gas produced in the cells of the root during respiration moves out through the same root hair by the process of diffusion. Thus, the respiration in roots occurs by the diffusion of respiratory gases. Dioxide through the root hair. See figure 50. It has been found that the land plant die in their root remains waterlogged for a considerable time. This is because too much water expels all the air from in between the soil particles. Due to this, oxygen is not available to the roots for aerobic respiration. Herbaceous plant has stomata in them, whereas the hard and woody stems of the large plants and trees have lenticels in them. Lenticels is a small area of bark in a woody is placed between and the living cells of the stem. Respiration in stems. So we have completed respiration in roots. We are going to learn about respiration in stems. The stems of herbaceous plants or herbs have stomata. So the exchange of respiratory gases in the stem of the herbaceous plants take place through stomata. The oxygen from the air to the stem from the herbaceous plant through the stomata and reaches all the cells for respiration. The carbon dioxide gas produced during respiration diffuses out into the air through the due to the same stomata. The hard and woody stems of the roots, plants, or trees do not have stomata. In woody stems, the bark outer covering of the lenticels for gaseous exchange. The oxygen from air to the stem of a woody plant through lenticels and reaches all the inner cells of the stem for respiration. The carbon dioxide gas diffuses out into the air through the same lenticels. Root absorbs water from the air present in particles through the root hair. Woody stems of the plant or trees have lenticels for exchange of respiratory gases, whereas the exchange of respiratory gases in the leaves tiny pores called stomata. Let us learn about respiration in leaves now. We have completed respiration in roots, we have completed the respiration in stems, now we have respiration in leaves. The leaves of a plant have tiny pores called stomata. The exchange of respiratory gases in the leaves take place by the process of diffusion through stomata. Oxygen from air diffuses into the leaf through the stomata and reaches all the cells where it is used in the respiration. The carbon dioxide produced during respiration diffuses out from the leaves into the air through the same stomata. It should be noted that respiration in the leaves occurs during the daytime and night. On the other hand, photosynthesis occurs only during the daytime because of the presence of sunlight only in the day. Because at night there is no presence of light there. No photosynthesis occurs at night. Due to this, the net gases exchanged in the leaf of a plant is as follows. The leaves of a plant have tiny pores called stomata. The exchange through stomata. Oxygen from the air diffuses into the leaves through stomata and reaches all the cells where it is used in the respiration. The carbon dioxide produced during respiration diffuses out from the leaves into the air through the same stomata. It should be noted that respiration in the leaves occurs during the daytime as well as night. On the other hand, photosynthesis occurs only during the daytime. No photosynthesis occurs at night. Due to this, the net gases exchange in the plant is as follows. During daytime, when photosynthesis occurs, oxygen is produced. The leaves use some of this oxygen for respiration and the rest of oxygen diffuses out into the air. Again, during day, carbon dioxide produced by respiration is photosynthesis by leaves. Even more carbon dioxide is taken in from the air. Thus, the net gas exchange in the leaves during the day is oxygen diffuses out, carbon dioxide diffuses in. At night, when no photosynthesis occurs and hence no oxygen is produced, oxygen from the air diffuses into the leaves to carry out respiration, and carbon dioxide produced by respiration diffuses out into the air. So, the net gas exchange in the leaves at night is oxygen diffuses in and carbon dioxide diffuses out. That's the reason why the peoples are not allowed to sleep under the tree at night, because the plant would excrete carbon dioxide out due to the process of respiration. Since there is no photosynthesis there will be no production of oxygen and hence no removal of oxygen from the trees. And that's why it is not advised to sleep under a tree during the night. Now we will learn Now we will learn about respiration in animals. Different animals have different modes of nutrition. For example, in simple unicellular animals like amoeba, respiration takes place by the simple diffusion of gases through the cell membrane. Most of the animals have, however, specific organs for respiration. The animals like earthworm, which live in the soil, use their skin to absorb oxygen from the air and remove carbon. Form is the moist skin. The aquatic animals like fish, prawns, and mussels have gills as the respiratory organ, which extract oxygen dissolved in the water and take away carbon dioxide from the body. In the insect like grasshopper, cockroach, housefly, and a mosquito, the tiny holes called spiracles on their body, and the air tubes called trachea are the respiratory organs. Respiratory organs of the land animals such as man, human, bird, lizard, dog, and frog, etc., are the lungs. Frogs, however, breathe both by lungs and skin. Once the air containing oxygen enters the skin or the lungs, blood absorbs the oxygen and transport it to various tissues of the animals. Blood also picks up the carbon tissues and brings it back to the skin or lungs for throwing it out into the air. Please note that all the respiratory organs, whether skin, gills, trachea, or lungs, have three common features. All the respiratory organs have a large surface area to get enough oxygen. Yeah, this is very common to all the living organisms that they have a large surface area for respiration. This will increase the probability of diffusion, or this will increase the rate of oxygen that is gonna enter the surface through the moist skin, or even in plants. There is a large surface area for respiration, and hence the large surface area for exchange of gases, and the more the gas will enter, the more efficient would be respiration. All the respiratory organs have thin walls for easy diffusion and exchange of respiratory gases. This is also true about respiration, that they have all the respiratory organs have thin membrane allowing diffusion, like our alveoli, and uh, if we talk about, our alveoli and the moist skin that is there, spara, which are present in the cockroach, all the things have a very thin membrane that is there. All the respiratory organs like skin, gills, and lungs have a supply for transporting respiratory gases. System of the respiration, air reaches the cells directly. The animals which live in water, aquatic animals, use the oxygen dissolved in the water to carry out respiration. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen in water is very low as compared to that of the amount of the oxygen in the air, therefore the rate of the breathing in aquatic animals is much in terrestrial animals or land animals. A faster rate of breathing provides more oxygen to the aquatic animals. The terrestrial animals or land animals use the oxygen of the air or atmosphere for breathing and respiration. Thus, a terrestrial animal has an advantage over an aquatic animal in regarding to obtain oxygen for respiration. That it is surrounded by an oxygen rich atmosphere from where it can take any amount of oxygen. We will now describe the process of respiration in amoeba, earthworm, fishes, and human beings. Let us talk about the respiration of amoeba now. Respiration in amoeba. Amoeba is a single celled animal. Amoeba depends on a simple diffusion of gases for breathing. The diffusion of gases takes place through the thin cell membrane of amoeba. In other words, the exchange of gases in amoeba takes place through its cell membrane. Let us discuss this in somewhat detail. Amoeba lives in water. The amoeba is an aquatic animal. This water has oxygen gas dissolved in it. The oxygen from water diffuses into the body of the amoeba through its cell membrane. Since the amoeba is very small in size, so the oxygen spreads quickly into the whole body of the amoeba through diffusion. This oxygen is used for respiration, energy release inside the amoeba cells. The process of respiration produces carbon dioxide gas continuously. This carbon dioxide gas diffuses out from the membrane of the amoeba into the surrounding water. Thus, the breathing surface or respiratory surface of the amoeba is its surface is its cell surface membrane. In addition to the amoeba, other simple animals like paramecium and planaria also depends on the simple diffusion of gases for breathing and respiration. Thus, amoeba, paramecium, and planaria all breathe through their cell membrane. In the small single-celled animals such as amoeba, the volume of their body is so small that oxygen can be introduced quickly into the whole body by the process of diffusion. This is because due to the smallness of the amoeba cell, the oxygen does not have to go far, but this is not so in the larger animals like earthworms, grasshoppers, fish and man, humans, etc. In large animals, the volume of the body is so big that oxygen cannot diffuse into all the cells of the body quickly. This is because in these cases the oxygen gas to travel a very large distance to reach each and every cells of the body. So in large animals there is a blood circulatory system to carry oxygen to all the parts of the body quickly and remove carbon dioxide. Blood contains respiratory pigments which take up oxygen from the air and carry it to body cells. This will become more clear from the following example. Firstly, look at a diagram that is given in the S-chant for amoeba, which is figure 54, which represent an amoeba having that depicting the cellular diffusion taking place through the cell membrane of the amoeba, where oxygen enters and carbon dioxide is getting removed. Diagram to show the process of breathing gaseous exchange in amoeba. Diffusion is insufficient to meet the oxygen requirement of large multicellular organisms like human because the volume of the human body is so big that oxygen cannot diffuse all the cells of the human body quickly. This is because oxygen will have to travel large distances inside the human body to reach each and every cells of the body. Diffusion, being a very slow process, will take a lot of time to make oxygen available to all the body cells. For example, it has been estimated that if the diffusion were to provide oxygen in our body, then it would take about 3 years for a molecule of oxygen from our lungs to reach our toes by the process of diffusion. One, on the other hand, the blood circulatory system in the humans carries blood to all the parts of body quickly and removes carbon dioxide. Actually, human blood contains a respiratory pigment called hemoglobin, which carries the oxygen from the lungs to all the body cells very efficiently. Hemoglobin is present in the red blood corpuscles or red blood cells or erythrocytes. We will now discuss the process of breathing and respiration in some large animals like earthworm, fishes, and humans. These are red blood cells, RBCs or erythrocytes. They contain a red blood pigment called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is respiratory pigment in blood which carries oxygen from the lungs to all the body cells very efficiently. But we are not talking about circulation. We are talking about respiration. So let's get back to the respiration and we will learn about respiration in earthworms and respiration in fishes and lastly respiration in humans. Okay, let's learn about respiration in earthworm, a very short topic. The earthworm exchanges the gas through its skin. This means that the respiration surface of an earthworm is its skin. The skin Respiration in earthworms. The earthworm exchanges the gas through the skin. This means that the earthworm exchanges the gases through its skin. This means that the respiratory surface of an earthworm is its moist skin. The skin of an earthworm is quite thin and moist and has a good blood supply. So the earthworm absorbs the oxygen needed for respiration through its moist skin. This oxygen is then transported to all the cells of the earthworm by the blood where it is used in the respiration. The carbon dioxide produced during respiration is carried back by the blood. This carbon dioxide is expelled out from the skin, which is thin and moist. Just like earthworm, the leeches also absorbs the oxygen needed for the respiration uh, through their skin, and carbon dioxide produced inside the leeches during respiration also goes out through its skin. So we have seen here that the respiration in the annelids that are there. Annelids involves the earthworms and leeches and all the moist worms that are there. They respire through their moist skin. Moist skin helps in respiration, and this type of respiration is actually called cutaneous respiration. This is also the mode of respiration that frogs perform, because frogs have a moist skin and they also perform respiration. Yeah. Re- Respiration in fishes. The fish has special organs for breathing called gills. The fish has gills on both the sides of the head. The gills are covered by gill cover, so they are not visible from outside. So we can see the gills of the fishes from outside. The fishes live in the water, and this water contains dissolved oxygen in it. For your information, there is very less amount of dissolved oxygen dissolved in the water that is there. So the rate of the breathing or rate of the respiration in fishes is very high, because they need a lot of oxygen for meeting their oxygen needs, but there is a less oxygen in dissolved in the water, so they have to respire very quickly, and their rate of respiration is very high. For breathing, the fishes uses the oxygen which is dissolved in the water. This happens as follows. The fishes breathes by taking in water through its mouth and sending it over the gills. When water passes over the gills extract dissolved oxygen from this water. The water then goes out through the gill slits hidden under the gill cover. Thus, the dissolved oxygen is extracted from the water by the fish when it flows over the gills. The extracted oxygen is absorbed by the blood and carried to all the parts of the fishes. The carbon dioxide produced by respiration is brought back by the blood into the gills for expelling into the surrounding water. The fish has no lungs like us. The gases exchange in the fishes takes place in the gills. So the respiratory surface of the fishes is the surface of its gills. It is common observation that when a fish is taken out from the water, it dies soon. Even though there is a lot of oxygen in the air around, why? So this happens because fishes have their gills that are there, and gills only can take dissolved oxygen which are dissolved in the water. So gills cannot take the oxygen that is directly in the atmosphere, and that's why they die. This is because a fish does not have a lungs to utilize the oxygen of the air for breathing and respiration. The fishes have gills which can extract only dissolved oxygen from the water and provide it to the fish. Gills cannot take in oxygen from air on land. Since fishes does not get oxygen for breathing, when taken out of the water, they dies. In addition to fish, many other aquatic animals like prawns and mussels also have special organs called gills for breathing and respiration. Please note that the fishes and earthworm do not exchange the gases during respiration in the same way. The fish exchanges the gas by using its special organs called gills. whereas the earthworm exchange the gases through its thin and moist skin. Please note that the fishes and earthworm do not exchange the gases during respiration in the same way. The तुम्हारी like other okay, please note that the fish and earthworm do not exchange the gases during respiration in the same way. The fish exchanges the gases by using its special organs called gills, whereas the earthworm exchanges the gases through its moist skin. Okay, let me explain it through diagrams because I have to turn camera. Wait a minute. So let us look at the respiratory system in human now. So human have a very well organized and well differentiated respiratory system, having a whole organ system for respiration. We have seen in the fishes and earthworms, which are called lower animals, they don't have these specialized structure for them. And even in amoeba, there is only the cell surface which can do diffusion for the respiration that is there. So respiration in the smaller animals or lower animals which are which do not have well differentiated part is very simple, whereas in humans there is a whole organ system devoted to the respiration that is there. And actually if we are talking about respiration, we are also talking about breathing, but we are not talking about cellular respiration now. Cellular respiration is actually happening in the cells, in our cells right now, and in every cells of all the organisms. Whereas the breathing is a physical process, whereas cellular respiration is a chemical process. So cellular respiration takes place inside the cell, whereas breathing is a physical process of taking in oxygen and releasing out carbon dioxide. So let us learn about respiration in humans now. Like other land animals, human beings are air breathers. Air contains oxygen. The human beings need oxygen to stay alive. We get this oxygen by breathing in air. The oxygen helps to break down the food absorbed in the body to release energy. So, to release energy, there is a need of oxygen for aerobic organisms. Whereas in anaerobic organism, there is not that's not the case, because oxygen, they do not need oxygen for respiration. Anaerobes are those organisms which do not need oxygen for respiration. They do it by uh, just breaking the carbohydrates into the lactic acid or alcohol and the carbon dioxide. This is called anaerobic respiration. We will learn about anaerobic respiration more in detail at the last of this session. This energy is used for manufacturing our life. The process by which energy is released from the food in our body is called respiration. Carbon dioxide and water are the two byproducts of the respiration. The process of respiration takes place inside the cells of our body. It involves the respiratory system. So it also involves the respiratory systems, and all the cells of our body performs this respiration. The function of the respiratory system is to breathe in oxygen for respiration, producing energy from food, and to breathe out carbon dioxide produced by respiration. The breathing organs of the human beings are lungs. It is in the lungs that the gases are exchanged between the blood and air. The gas exchange between the blood and the air are oxygen and carbon dioxide. We will now describe the human respiratory system in detail. Before we go further and describe the human respiratory in detail, it is necessary to learn the process of breathing, which is an important part of respiration. This is discussed below. So, we have a diagrammatic representation of lungs. Lungs, these are the human lungs that are there. The this represent the outer structure of the lungs, whereas this diagram represent the inner structure of the lungs. So these are trachea, which are also called windpipes. These are divided into two branches called bronchi. These bronchi further divides into bronchioles, which you can see from this diagram easily. These smaller branches are bronchioles, and we can live without food and water for many days, but we cannot live for more than a few minutes without air. This is because the air is necessary for breathing. During breathing, we take air into our lungs through the nose and then expel it. The ordinary air which we take into the lung is rich in oxygen, but the air expelled out from the lung is rich in carbon dioxide. We can now define breathing as follows. Breathing is the process by which the air rich in oxygen is taken inside the body of an organism and air rich in carbon dioxide is expelled from the body with the help of breathing organs. The breathing in the takes place through the organs called lungs. So, let us learn about the breathing in the human beings. The taking in of air rich in oxygen into the body during breathing, inhalation, and giving out or expelling out the air rich in carbon dioxide is called exhalation. Both inhalation and exhalation takes place regularly during breathing. A breath means one inhalation plus one exhalation. So when we breathe in and then when we breathe out, this is only one breath, not two breaths. These are one breath. So firstly inhale in and then exhale out. This is one breath. Okay. We know that air contains regularly during air we know that air contains oxygen. So when we breathe in air, it is actually the oxygen gas present in the air which is utilized by our body to break down food and produce energy. Thus we breathe in air to supply oxygen to the cells of our body for breaking down of food to release energy or for cellular respiration. We breathe out to remove waste products, carbon dioxide from our blood, which is produced during the breakdown of food in the cells. Breathing is a continuous process which goes on all the time throughout our life. We will now learn the mechanism of breathing. So, mechanism of breathing. What is mechanism of breathing? It involves the position of the lungs and diaphragm when we inhale in and as well as when we exhale out. So, we will learn how the breathing is performed by our lungs, how our lungs contract and relax to inhale and exhale the oxygen that is there. So let us start. We will now learn about mechanism of breathing. That is, we will now learn how air from outside is sucked into our lungs during inhalation, breathing in, and how air from our lungs is pushed out during exhalation, breathing out. The process of breathing takes place in our lungs. Lungs are connected to our nostrils, holes in the nose, though nasal passage or through nasal passage or nasal cavity, and windpipe. Windpipe is also called trachea in more scientific terms. When we inhale air, it enters our nostrils, passes through the nasal passage and windpipe or trachea, and reaches our lungs. Our two lungs hang in an airtight space in our body called chest cavity. Around the sides of the chest cavity is the rib cage. What is rib cage? Rib cage, actually all the organs that are important, all the organs are very important for respiration, for different the visceral organ that are there. There are many kind of visceral organs present in our body, and these should be protected because they are very delicate organs and they can be like easily damaged through small activities. Like if someone falls, their lung would be damaged if there will be no protection to the lungs. So to provide protection, there is a cage like structure of the bone around the lungs, which is also called rib cage. ठीक है, around the sides of the chest cavity is the rib cage with sheet of muscles between the ribs. These are called. Yeah, I want to know from you that do you know about the what are the muscles that are present attached to the rib cages that are there. The rib cage includes lung. In it, at the bottom of the chest cavity is a curved sheet of muscles called diaphragm. Okay. Diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity or thoracic cavity. Chest cavity is also known as thoracic cavity. Breathing involves the movement of the rib cage and the diaphragm. This happens as follows. Breathing in. When we inhale or breathe in or in, then two things happens at the same time. The muscles between the rib contract, causing the rib cage to move upward and outward, and the diaphragm contracts and moves downward. The upward and outward movement of the ribs as well as the downward movement of diaphragm through the contraction both increases the space in the chest cavity and makes it larger. And when volume increases, the density decreases, and due to the decrease in the density of the or the pressure in the lungs, the outer oxygen and outer air moves inside the lungs. As the chest cavity becomes larger, air is sucked in from outside into the lungs. The lungs get filled up with the air and expands. So, let me show you the diagram for this to understand it well. Okay. So, these are our lungs, and there are two conditions that are given. Okay. Yeah, there are two states that are there. Firstly, we have the breathe in, which is also called inhalation. This is the diagram for inhalation. When we breathe in, firstly diaphragm moves downward by contraction, and our rib cage moves upward and outward through the contraction. And these two contraction movement makes the chest cavity larger, and when the volume becomes larger, the density will decrease, and hence the air will flow from a higher concentration outside and to the lower concentration inside the lungs. Okay, we will see the diagram of the exhaled air now. The diaphragm moves up, reducing the chest cavity, and the chest muscles also relaxes, moves downward and inward, pushing the air outside. Then we have the structure of the lungs. This is the structure of the lungs, and this is the structure of the respiratory system that is there. Firstly, we have the nose. These are nostrils, and through nostrils, the air enters into the nasal passage. This is called the nasal cavity or nasal passage. Then we have the pharynx. Pharynx is the common opening for the food as well as the air. Then is the trachea. This is the larynx, which is also called voice box. and this is the trachea, which is also called windpipe or air pipe. This trachea is then divided into two branch like structures called bronchi for getting into the two lungs. We will see the uh, lungs. Now, bronchi are divided into okay? Bronchi are divided into bronchioles, and these bronchioles are divided into bronchiolus. And these bronchiolus ends in these sac-like structures which are called alveoli, which are made so that to increase the surface area of the uh, for the respiration. This is the diaphragm which moves upward and downward for causing the movements in the lungs.